He's Tim May from Letterman Monroe, and he is on the North Olmsted Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram hotline. The Buckeyes with a big one tomorrow against Mel Tucker's Michigan State Spartans. The former Ohio State assistant and Cleveland Heights native returns back to the shoe, and it's going to be an interesting game. Isn't it, Tim? Isn't it? Tell me this game's going to be interesting tomorrow.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was holding for the jackpot drawing.
I'm sorry. What's your ticket number? What do you have?
6.
Oh, it was 7. Oh, you were so close.
Man,
I
so
thought
close.
you had it.
So close.
Oh.
That's that'll be the name of my book. So close. But anyway, yeah, tomorrow's gonna be a hell of a game. You think on paper?
I'm pumped.
Last week was gonna be a hell of a game on paper. Ohio State versus Purdue. Purdue comes in 16th in the country in red zone defense, 16th in the country in scoring defense. It gets beat 59-31. Ohio State scores a touchdown on all but one trip to the red zone. Whereas the previous 2 weeks they could barely buy one touchdown trips to the red zone, kicked 4 field goals in each game. Last week they kicked 1. You look at Ohio State, leads the nation in total offense and in total scoring. You look at Michigan State, and it's last in the FBS in pass defense, at least in yards allowed passing. We all know about Ohio State, C.J. Stroud, and the three. I was going to say amigos. It's got to have the three grabbers of the ball. The three grabbers of the ball that he's got going for him, and heck, another one of those guys could set a Ohio State career record tomorrow if Chris Olave gets 2 touchdown catches. He'll pass David Boston, who has 34 career touchdown catches. Standing pat, he has to stand pat with that because he no longer has eligibility. And Chris Olave could really put that record way out there into the lake. You know, that stake way out there into the pond, into the lake. And by the time this season is done, yeah, it's on paper it's supposed to be a really good game. Kenneth Walker III, Heisman Trophy hopeful, against C.J. Stroud, Heisman Trophy odds-on leader right now, according to a couple of betting houses out of Las Vegas. You know, those guys don't mess around; they do their research.
No.
So, yeah, there's all kinds of reasons why this could be a hell of a game and could be another semi-blowout by the Buckeyes.
Tim, some great storylines going. It's weird. You know, we were doing the postgame show last week with Brian Browning, and I started to say to him, you know, CJ looked kind of pedestrian, and then I'm like, wait a minute, he threw for 361 yards and he threw 5 touchdowns. So I had to hit myself in the head before I said it. But compared to some of the other games, it maybe that's just my way of saying he's really starting to look natural in this, being able to flip 5 touchdowns in a game theory.
Dude, they had over 600 yards total offense last week, and I remember Ryan Day saying something, but the offense looked pretty good, didn't it? And he's like looking at people like cross-eyed, like, what are you talking about? I mean, you know, how many times have you seen Ohio State put up over 600 yards total offense ever?
Right.
And you're right, but the way they make it look almost matter of fact, it's kind of like, okay, this is the part of the book that you understand, you know? They are really good at throwing the ball and catching it and catching and turning a short catch into a long gain, et cetera, you know? And that's what's interesting about tomorrow's game is I forgot the exact stat of how much yardage Kenneth Walker III has after contact, but it's stunning. It's basically almost, I think, half of his rushing yards, you know, which you would expect, you know, from a great back. Right. And then you look at the yak by the Ohio State receivers over the last many games. It's, you know, the real action starts after contact, and it will start after contact in this game. Kind of like, you know, when they used to start up those World War I fighter planes. Contact, you know.
Well, Tim, you kind of stole my thunder on a good chunk of this because I keep looking at everything you've laid out.
That's what I tried to do. I tried to corral the thunder, man. I'm working on a theory, an algorithm that would stop hurricanes, and one of those things is stop the thunder. Go ahead now.
It's like hanging out with Thor. He just steals all the thunder. So
yes.
So this seems to me, and maybe this is the Ohio State side of it more than anything else, this seems to me like it's got Ohio State blowout all over it. With the way Ohio State can spread them out, throw the ball all over the place, how bad Michigan State is against the pass. I mean, like you laid out, worst team in the country. I mean, this as much as we all want to get pumped up for this and get ready for this, this might have blowout written all over it. And here's this Ohio State team, which everybody lost faith in, all of a sudden catching fire once again.
Yeah, and the folly of thinking that what you see on paper is going to happen in college football this year, that's folly. That's total folly. And as you well know, but it could still happen. You know, I mean, here's the 7th-ranked team. What are they? Number 7? Yeah, they're behind Michigan in the latest CFP. Michigan State is the last 2 weeks, even though they beat Michigan. They each have one loss. Go figure. Oregon's ahead of Ohio State, even though Oregon beat Ohio State, but Ohio State is much better than it was second game of the year. Go figure. But yeah, on paper, you know, Michigan State is not a one-trick pony on offense, but it's got this really good Cirque du Soleil horse in Kenneth Walker III, you know, who kind of distracts you from the fact they do throw the ball competently, and then sometimes they've thrown it extremely well. Peyton Thorne and those 3 receivers, although one of them's playing with broken bones in one of his hands. But you know what? If you cradle the ball, who cares? But I digress. Yeah, I mean, on paper, it looks like Ohio State. It looks like Michigan State's really good on offense, and it looks like Ohio State's spectacular on offense. You always think that's what's going to carry the day, especially when you compare the defenses against the different attacks. But what Ohio State has to do tomorrow, in my opinion, it has kind of shown it can get it done in this regard. They've got to be good against the run. Not great. They got to just, you know, throttle Kenneth Walker III. Maybe he gets his 140, average of 140 or so, but he can't go off on you, man. I mean, Michigan thought they had that game put away a couple of weeks ago. They're up 16. What did Michigan State do? Yeah, they threw the ball a little bit, but mainly they let Kenneth Walker III run them out of it. You know, it reminds me of Ohio State back in 1984 with Keith Byers when they fell behind to Illinois, like, what was it, 31-3 or something like that, and came back and won that game, and they did mainly by handing the ball to Keith Byers. You know, I mean, go with your horse, right? And
right.
So just when you think you got it figured out, you know, is Kenneth Walker III going to be held to 6 yards to carry instead of 8? You know, blah, blah, blah. You don't know the answers to that till you play the game. Do I think Ohio State's run defense, especially with Steel Chambers now in one of the linebacker spots, is much better than it was against Oregon and C.J. Verdell? And do I think their alignment and their ability to line up correctly is much better than it was in that game Low those many weeks ago? Yes, I do. But you still got to prove it.
Tim, let's talk about Mel Tucker for a second. Guy who graduated from Cleveland Heights, spent time with Jim Tressel at Ohio State as an assistant, spent time with Nick Saban at Alabama, had the job at Colorado, ended up going back to Michigan State. Michigan State gets two big donors to put the money where their mouth is about trying to make Michigan State a program that's going to be here and can try to dig into Ohio State and maybe Alabama or whatever by putting a lot of money behind Mel Tucker. Is Michigan State a team that we need to, really – I mean, they've given Ohio State fits a couple times over the past, but I think that this investment that they've made in Mel might be kind of special. What do you think?
Well, I want to answer that question backwards.
Okay.
Number one, Michigan State, 19. I got Archie Griffin on my podcast this week. I'm going to promote my podcast along with him. He and I revisited briefly, because that's all he wanted to do was briefly revisit 1974 when Levi Jackson went up the sideline on Ohio State 88 yards. They took the lead, and Ohio State thought it had scored the winning touchdown in the last play of the game. Come to find out they had not. They had been called for an illegal motion penalty because they weren't set, according to the officials. And then Wayne Duke delivered that message unceremonially to Woody Hayes and his team in the locker room like 20 minutes or something after the game, 30 minutes after the game. 1998, Nick Saban with an average at best Michigan State team comes in to Ohio Stadium. Ohio State's either number one or number two in the country. I think it was number one, and is leading 21-9. I think it was along those areas. And Ohio State kind of quit playing, and Michigan State didn't. Pulls a great upset, keeps Ohio State from going to the BCS, the first BCS national championship game. Still should have gone to that game, but that's another story. 2013, they upset Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. and keep Ohio State from going to another BCS game, although that team wasn't really ready for it. 2015, the greatest fall day you've ever seen until a thunderstorm hit about 10 minutes before kickoff in Ohio Stadium. It's the Zeke Elliott game where Zeke Elliott didn't get the ball. Basically only got 12 carries in that game, and an inferior Michigan State team upset with a third-string quarterback upsets Ohio State. And the better team of 2015 and 14 was 2015 in my estimation, because you had all those guys back. So, Michigan State has history in this game of beating Ohio State just when you think they won't. With that said, Mel Tucker, no one, and maybe it's because of Mel Tucker's fairly recent professional experience, no one remade their team from last year to this year more stunningly evident in the remake market, in the tapping the transfer portal, et cetera, than Mel Tucker did. Seems to be a man for the times. They flipped their roster, and especially with key guys. Kenneth Walker III, he should be at Wake Forest right now. Think how good he didn't fit into Wake Forest's plans. What kind of book is that? What kind of planning is that? But I digress. Right on down the line, he has shown the ability to be a pretty effective assistant coach at Alabama and at Georgia, and then at Colorado when he got a chance to be a head coach. He was the interim head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars back in 2011 for a while. But since he's gotten a chance to be a head coach, he's proven he can have almost instant results, and he can recruit. And that's key at Michigan State, is don't just get the guys at Ohio State couldn't quite get to come to Ohio State from the state of Ohio. Go get your own group, go to Florida, get those guys. He's pretty effective recruiter. They know what they've got in hand. They know LSU probably wants him. Whether they can actually win that bidding war remains to be seen, if in fact it becomes a bidding war. I know I'm taking too much time here, but I can't help it. I've known Mel Tucker since way back when he was at Ohio State. We've stayed in touch all these years, and I think he's a hell of a coach.
And a great guy. I can't.
And a great guy to boot.
Yeah, it's one thing to be a hell of a coach, but it's another thing to be a great person. And I just think, I think the world of him, just because of the way there is something special about him with the way he treats people, and he doesn't I can't explain it.
Yes.
And I don't know that I've met many coaches like him before. That's the other thing too.
He and I met surreptitiously a couple times, or one time, if I remember correctly, in Cleveland. But we met at the just to shoot the bull. I was going to be in Cleveland, and he was going to be up there, and we met at a Bob Evans restaurant and just shot the bull. That's the kind of guy he is. This was a long time ago, but the thing, everywhere he's been to, he has footprints everywhere now. He knows where to go. He knows where the players are. Now you guys got to go get them.
Tim, just give me a quick prediction tomorrow. What do you think?
I think Ohio State handles his business. This is the 130th pass defense in the country. I'm talking about Michigan State in yards allowed. Ohio State is ridiculous the way it can throw the ball now, and how much better C.J. Stroud is now than he was 5 games ago. I think Ohio State outscores Michigan State somewhere in the neighborhood of minimum 45 to 24 or something like that.
Tim, as always, I look forward to talking to you next week. You're an outstanding man too. You're right up there with Mel Tucker.
I'm always fired up when it comes to talking to you fellas, and I think y'all know that by now.
We do.
I think my admiration of you guys comes through.
Thor, we'll talk soon.
Goodbye.
You got it.
Tim.
See you guys.
All right.
See you, brother.